So I never thought I'd be making a video on this, which is what every single YouTuber says their entire career at one point. But genuinely, like the Slup channel, right? I tend to cover like whatever drama is happening in the past 24 hours, and then everyone forgets it the next day because the slop mill never stops. You know, I talk about internet drama, video games, current events, you know, all the really important things. You know, I don't want to be Jaden Smith talking about the socio-economic policies around the world or whatever he said.
Look at my phone selfie. I'm just like, dude, like, oh my God, like, can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?
When you tune into this channel, you're watching slop, but sometimes the slop is actually pretty interesting, and that's exactly what I want to talk about today. This is something that I've looked into, and I'll be honest, I had no idea that this even existed. The only reason I even knew about this is because when I was streaming, someone in my chat brought it to my attention. So today, for a change, we're going a little bit back into the past. I'm not talking about the dark days of like Vine or when X was called Twitter. No, I'm talking even further back than that. I'm talking like the late 90s. So let's set the scene. It's the 1st of May, 1985. It's a beautiful summer day in the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. But today is a special day because little does anyone know, the course of history is about to be changed forever. So unfortunately for Yugoslavia, war and instability are on the horizon. And in just a few short years, the entire republic is going to completely fall apart, splitting Yugoslavia into a bunch of smaller countries. But on that day, a man woke up and he knew that he could change the course of history. How? By shoving a bottle up his butthole. Now, I can imagine many of you in the comments, how did he do it? How did that happen? Pyrocynical, have you lost the plot? Pyrocynical, is there really nothing else to talk about? Has it been that much of a slow news day that you're digging up the story of the man who sat on a bottle? The breakup of Yugoslavia was enormous. You know, an entire country fell apart and thousands of people died in the process. You know, surely an entire country falling apart, there is no way that this has anything to do with a single lone farmer getting a little bit frisky with a bottle in a field. But no, I'm not joking, and that's exactly why I wanted to talk about this. A single glass bottle basically changed the entire course of human history simply for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And who was the man who the bottle found itself inside? George Martinovic. So a little bit of context to the story because it, you know, all went down in Yugoslavia. Again, keep in mind, of course, this is a country that does not exist anymore. Now, the history of Yugoslavia is very, very complicated. And if I were to do a video on it, it'd be basically a 5-hour video essay. I'll be honest, me explaining the backstory of Yugoslavia, it'll probably end up being longer than the Darkwood video, which, by the way, is coming out the 15th of September. That's like less than 2 weeks. Now, the context here that's really, really important in Yugoslavia, there were various different ethnic groups. And two of these are really important. The Kosovo Serbs and the Kosovo Albanians. Now, there was a lot of tension between these two groups for many historical reasons that, again, to go into detail would take like a longer than the Darkwood video to explain all of it. And me making said video would lead me to being cancelled for mispronouncing half the people's names anyway. Oh, I remember that great battle between Metro's booming track and Good Kid Mad City. Now, a lot of it, especially for the younger audience, you're going to find it quite boring. I can't summarize it in a 1-minute long TikTok, but you want to keep that in your mind to understand the intricacies of Yugoslavian one man, one jar. Also, I'd really like to say, like that is basically a boomer check, right? Like, if you watch this video and you know what one man, one jar is, you deserve like some kind of medal for basically being on the earth for over 100 years. And to anyone that has no idea what one man, one jar is, it's a guy sitting on a jar, and it's about as explicit as you can imagine. Do not look it up. Now, this story begins with George, the Serbian farmer, going to the hospital. His problem, as you might have guessed, is broken shards of glass stuck up his butthole. Now, even explaining this story, I get like a tension down here, down in my gooch, like a very uncomfortable feeling talking about this. Now, the doctors asked him what happened, and they, you know, expected some kind of like ridiculous lies to cover up. I mean, even nowadays, you know, a lot of people that go to the hospital, they have certain objects shoved up here that end up, you know, almost like pressing against their stomach, and then they do an MRI and they'll find out it's like a Barbie doll or something. And when that happens, the doctors can assume that you're having a bit of a happy fun time, and you know, a lot of people get embarrassed and they make up a lie like, oh, I sit on it, I fell over and it went up my butthole. But George tells the doctors that he was actually attacked by two men when working in the field. Specifically though, he said that a Serbian man was attacked by 2 Albanian men. So now it's not just a medical issue, it's an actual crime. And the doctors have a responsibility to pass this along to the authorities. Now, the doctors, of course, treat him. They pull that bottle out of there. I'm not sure how they did. I don't like talking about stuff like that. But now George has to talk to the army. So not the cops, but a general of the Yugoslav People's Army. So the colonel sits him down, interrogates him. George continues to change the story yet again. He admits that he wasn't attacked, but instead he was having just a little bit too much fun while working. You know what? I'm not allowed to judge people anymore, but that's some serious fun being had right there. And the thing is, Georges is a farmer. You'd think if he wanted to, do that, he'd use something like cucumbers or corn, maybe. But no, he opted for the glass bottle. So it's true what they say. Yugoslavian farmers really make do. I like how no one said that. When has that ever been a phrase? I don't think that phrase has ever been uttered a single time in someone's life. So for a while, that's the story that reaches the public. Based on his injuries and on his story, a statement is given to the community saying that there was basically no attack and Georges just, got a bottle, sat down on the bottle for a little bit of self-satisfaction. But when he sat on the bottle, he wasn't careful enough doing it. I'll be honest, we're really making some serious excuses for Georges right now. Now, that should be it, right? A simple, happy ending. A man sat on a bottle, got stuck up his butthole. He made a little lie, but then he was honest. Everything was resolved. Everyone can live happily ever after. But then, after that, George is taken to a military hospital in Belgrade, which is another city in Yugoslavia. And that's because they want to take a closer look at him. A team of 5 doctors taking a closer look at him. And they all decide that his official story that he lied and sat on the bottle to pleasure himself doesn't check out. And with their investigations, they find out that George, there was no possible way that with the amount of force needed to sit on the bottle that he could have done it himself. I have no idea what kind of tests they ran there to verify that story. I'm not sure if the 5 doctors took turns sitting on a glass bottle to see which one got caught up their ass. But they basically concluded that they think that 2 other people helped or basically forced George to sit on the bottle. So again, so far the story, George said he was attacked by 2 Albanian men. Then when he went to the general, he went, okay, hands up. I trolled. I sat on the bottle to pleasure myself. But then the story is flipped again back to the original version because 5 doctors have basically summarized that he could not have sat on that bottle on his own. So that should be the end of it again. But as you know, as I say pretty much every video, look at the timeline of the video. Is the video over yet? No. So it only gets worse. So a month later, an entirely different team of doctors came in with their own game theory. So their hypothesis here, their theory, is that he pushed a stick into the ground, put a bottle on top of the stick, and then sat on it. After that, it broke in his ass, and then he had to go to the hospital. Here's a picture, by the way, on screen. That is not George, but, that's apparently the stick and the glass bottle that were alleged evidence. That was sourced from a Swedish article about the incident. So in the end, authorities didn't actually look for the attacker, and to this day, it's still really unclear which story is actually true. So George apparently went on to live a long, fulfilling, hopefully bottle in assless life until he died in the year 2000, which is insane to me because I was born in 97, right? I get it. I'm an old head. I know. But to think that for 3 years, me and this man were on the planet at the same time, it's insane. You really, there are so many celebrities out there you're never going to meet. So no one was ever charged because doctors summarized that he did it himself and even said that he did it himself. But that doesn't actually mean there weren't consequences. And this is where the story becomes a full circle because for all of Yugoslavia, there were massive consequences. Now, remember when I said the Kosovo Serbs and the Kosovo Albanians had a lot of tension with each other for quite a long time? Even if it wasn't true, George said originally that he was attacked by 2 Albanian men, and that got picked up in the Serbian news. And unfortunately, his original story saying that he was attacked by 2 Albanians, that got picked up more than the doctor's actual official conclusion, and him as well coming out and saying, actually, I trolled. I sat on the bottle. That's not what was ran. It was ran that he was basically attacked by a different ethnic group. So the newspapers, as a lot of newspapers do, started running with their own facts without trying to cross-reference or verify any of their claims, basically saying that the Albanians who attacked George did it because they wanted his land. Some people even writing poems to commemorate it, comparing his accident to how, you know, the Ottoman Empire would torture and execute people, usually by impaling them. One artist, and this one's great, they took a very old famous painting of one of Jesus's apostles being put on the cross, and he painted it with George A instead. So in the past, nationalism was a very, very taboo subject within the country, and the government and press would try to avoid it as much as they could. But now, after this incident, Serbian nationalism started to grow a lot. And there was an anti-Albanian sentiment that it really did the rounds. Serbians put a lot of pressure on the government to try and find the attackers. And one writer even actually tried to help George get a lawyer to sue the government for apparently trying to get him to sign a false confession. And also as well, there was some really dark elements to this as well. Like a lot of people running with the narrative that, you know, Albanians are just naturally violent people. And this nationalism that stemmed from this incident continued to grow and grow. And it would be one of the direct causes of the Yugoslav wars and the eventual breakup of the Yugoslav Union. And even today, like the story I'm telling you of the guy that basically sat on a bottle, he did the equivalent of one man, one jar, and caused an entire country to break up. We still can't verify if that's 100% the reason that even happened, if it even happened at all. And the case has gone cold because Yugoslavia is broken up. George died in 2000, and there were never any suspects. That there were no identities given. There was no funny police sketches handed around. But one thing we do know for sure, the possible alleged fall of Yugoslavia was all because one guy wanted to do one man, one jar. So what's the moral of today's story? Don't sit on a glass jar, and definitely don't sit on a glass jar while sat on a stick. What good advice is that, man? But yeah, I just thought this would be a funny video to talk about because, you know, I know like the Slop channel is just filled with like drama mill content that everyone forgets after a day. This story, I only found out because someone brought it up to me in my stream chat where I stream here on, you know, PyroLive. Like I try to do it every day. At the minute, we're streaming Fear and Hunger, by the way. And I just thought it was really funny. I was like, no way that's true. That has to be a bit. But, you know, I just thought I'd cover it.